So, Pascal, this film is called Triangle, and it's one of my favourite modern horror films. Well, I say modern horror films. I'm not sure whether it is a horror film, or whether it's a science fiction film, or whether it's a fantasy film, or I'm not actually sure what it is, but what it absolutely is utterly, utterly compelling and utterly, utterly fascinating. And it actually has a plot which makes you want to go away and do research after you've watched it to try and work out what on earth is going on. Now, I think that when we get into the discussion about this film, and particularly the marketing, I think we'll come to the conclusion that the marketing for this film let it down. Because when I first saw the posters for the film and the strapline, well, I'll read you the strapline. It says, "A single mother goes on a boating trip with several friends. When they are forced to abandon their ship, they board a derelict ocean liner where they become convinced that someone is stalking them." Now, the posters for the film have this lady, she's called Jess, on the ship, and in the background there's a masked man with a gun. And when you see that poster, you think, oh, it's just a slasher film on a ship. You know, it could be Scream, or it could be Friday the 13th. It's just set on a ship. And admittedly, when you watch the film, within that first 20 minutes when they arrive on the ship, there is indeed a masked person with a gun, and you do think this is just a slasher film on a ship. And then it absolutely hits you in the face with this sort of genre shift plot twist, which just completely and utterly changes it. And from that moment on, it's anything but a slasher film on a ship. But I suspect that a lot of people might not have even gone to watch it because they thought it was going to be a slasher film because of the marketing. So, have you seen this film, Pascal?
Well, yes, but very late. I think this movie was released in 2009 from memory, and I only saw it more recently thanks to Amazon Prime. But we're going to talk about the marketing in a moment because I think it had a role to play in me missing it. I mean, I would say 2009, I was certainly very, very attentive to what was being released. I was watching an enormous amount of films to learn actually about film production. And this one, I just missed it, which is strange because the director and the writer, Christopher Smith, is known to me because he did the really great horror thriller called Creep. I don't know if you've seen that one of his. Severance, which is so good, like very proper dark humor. Black Death, obviously, was Sean Bean, Detour. And more recently, because of lockdown, once again, our consumption has gone through the roof. I've been watching the Alex Rider TV series, which were really so well pulled together, and I'm looking forward to his new work called The Banishing. So how have I missed Triangle is mystery to me.
Yeah, and did you feel when you were watching it, oh, this is just going to be a slasher movie? And
no, actually, I thought it was going to be a survival movie.
Okay.
So because I kind of got a sense that they were going to, be stuck on the boat, and I thought it was maybe some of the others I've seen where there's one which the title escapes me, where they jump in the sea to swim, but then they forgot to put the ladder down, so they can't get back on the boat. So I thought it would be a survival movie. Then I thought it was going to be a slasher movie. Then when I got it, I got so excited. I mean, I was literally almost saying that this is amazing, because I'm also, which I think hints to what we're going to discuss in a moment, I'm also a huge fan of Greek and Roman mythology. When I was a kid, we used to go to the library. People don't know what that is anymore, but we used to go to the library, and I used to get all the books and read the Greek and Roman mythology from cover to cover, and I kind of knew a bit about the story that had been used. I just think this is a movie that people need to rediscover, and I'm glad we're doing a bit of a promotion here today.
Yeah, and it's admittedly, Pascal, it'd be very, very difficult to talk about the plot of the film without ruining the surprise. Suffice to say, what we've said so far is true. Both you and I thought that this film was going to be something other than what it turned out to be. And honestly, when it hits you with this sort of pivotal moment at about 20, 30 minutes in, when it just changes and you think, oh my God, where did that come from? And certainly, where is it going? It really does make you sit up and think. And since then, I've gone on to Google, I've Googled the film, and people have written, theses about this film.
Yeah.
And the paradoxes. And, as a film producer and director yourself, there are some of the film cinematography and some of the framing of the shots in this film are remarkable. And again, I can't give away the plot, but because it has a time travel element in it as well, the way that they suggest the passage of time by framing different characters in different ways is absolutely fascinating. Before you even get into all the sort of the backdrop of the Greek legends and all of that sort of thing, and that's another rabbit hole you can go down. Just going back and looking at the Greek legend upon which this is based.
I think you're right. We need to compliment Christopher Smith and his obviously team around design, the design of obviously the different environment. If you're into that kind of things, I would encourage people to watch for the horizontal lines and how they're being used.
Yeah.
But if you don't care, just watch the film and enjoy it nonetheless. But also, you're right. This would have been scripted superbly. I think that had to be storyboarded to perfection, because otherwise you would get confused, even just as a producer storyteller, because typically films are rarely shot in the chronological order, so you end up having to do scene 10 first, then move on to scene 1, then go back to scene 24. But I would say that your kind of question about, is this a horror film? I think it is, because what is happening to the lead character is truly horrible. If you think about it, what is happening to her, once you understand to the very last frame, once you understand what is happening to her, this is kind of chilling, truthfully. And there are some moments in the movie where something is revealed, where literally you are just completely gobsmacked, and it's not shocking. It's not using the tricks of the music changing and suddenly there's like this striking the piano chord, whatever. It just, the camera just moves and reveals something, and you just go, "Oh my God, this is horrible."
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not particularly gory. I mean, in fairness, there's quite a lot of blood in the bits where you're thinking, oh, this is a slasher film, but mainly it's just the concept of what's being done to this Jess character, played fantastically by Mellisa George. I have to say, she acts her socks off in this film, and the mental trauma that she's going through is just, as you say, really quite scary to think about. So absolute, kudos to this actress. And again, this film seems to have been missed by so many people, and she obviously got missed by all the different awards ceremonies at the time, which is a real shame, because I think this is an incredible performance.
And that's, I think, what we need to get into. So we know that this was an Anglo-Australian production, which is great.
Yep.
So you had support from the UK Film Council, and I think the equivalent would be Screen Australia, and then other kind of indie production companies. And I think, what you're now saying is bravo to the filmmakers, but then we need to challenge the distributors and the financiers to say, really, when you create something as good as Triangle, you've got to continue the effort and put the kind of marketing machine into kind of overdrive. And I think what happened was just, they did the essentials. They just did what was expected of them, and that wasn't sufficient. That wasn't actually in line with how brilliant the film is.
Yeah, and I know, again, I come back to some of the marketing materials, and I've got them on the screen here, Pascal, and so many of them just focus on the masked man, and you just think, oh, this is just going to be a slasher movie. I mean, some of them tease a little bit. One of them says it will twist you and terrify you over and over and over, which is quite an interesting hint at what's going. Some of the posters actually have splits in the screen, which suggest some of the recurring themes that happen within the film. But on the whole, it's just a bit of a mediocre marketing campaign, and you're absolutely right. I think, why make such an incredibly deep, detailed film? Why shoot it so incredibly well? Why squeeze such an incredible performance of your leading lady and then almost completely, let it go out there without any decent promotion? I just don't get it. Maybe they ran out of money, but I don't know. But it's just a real shame.
Again, if this is a bit at the hands of the filmmakers. So Christopher Smith, Mellisa George. Also, of course, they had Liam Hemsworth and Michael Dorman, and a few other actors. They all kind of worked their socks off. But then the product is finished. They move on. And this is now taken over by the distributors and the marketers. And yes, this was presented at the London Fright Fest, which is great. Yes, it has some limited theatrical release. But then, it just didn't really given the push. I think there was too many distributors kind of passing on almost like a hot potatoes, because ultimately we're not the only one agreeing with that. This movie had thumbs up from Rotten Tomatoes, from Time Out, from Empire Magazine. You had people, the film critics in The Guardian saying, this will leave you suitably shaken. This is a smart, interestingly constructed, scary movie, creating some real shivers. So others did agree with our conclusion, Roger. And it just essentially is for us, the lesson, which is, the work in crafting the content is not the end. You've got to then allow enough energy, enough time and resources, budget, you're right, Roger, to then market the content. Otherwise, you're going to have to rely on people like you and I to kind of give it a shout out nearly 12 years later.
Yeah, and I've watched this film about 4 or 5 times now, and every time I watch it, I end up going off onto the internet looking for some of the explanation articles again. Now, maybe I'm giving the wrong impression here. I don't want to suggest that what happens in the film is so baffling that it makes it unenjoyable to watch. It's incredibly enjoyable to watch, but it is quite a mind-blowing concept, and I almost wanted to dig a little bit deeper. You have to understand the Greek legend upon which the film is based. Now, they do explain it in the film if you listen, but if you want to go into it in a little bit more detail, there's so much material out there, and the concept of the trauma that Jess is going through. As I say, people have written theses about it. Now, it's interesting. In 2009, I read quite a lot of articles about what was happening to her. And at the time, I thought, wow, this is a little bit too complicated. And I think as the time's gone by, people have written more and more articles. And actually, what's happening to her is not as complicated, perhaps, as some of the people thought right at the start. And the clues are all over the screen. The name of the film, Triangle, is a clue in itself. Now, it's actually the name of the boat that they start off sailing on, but Triangle itself is a massive clue to what's going on. And they always do say that things come in threes. And I'm not going to say anything else apart from that. Things come in threes. Please watch this film if you've never seen it before. Don't go into it with any expectations of it being a specific genre, because whatever your expectation is going to be, it will be absolutely knocked out of the park after about 25, 30 minutes.
And as you can tell, you'll be talking about it with your, friends and family and other film goers for quite some time. And you're right, it's really the mark of a good film when conversation are kind of encouraged. But also, like you, I went back and researched because I knew about the legends, but of course I read the books a long time ago, and it was a real pleasure to delve back into it and go, oh, I see, because of the name of the cruise line and this and that. So again, what is lovely is that you get a little hint of the amount of hard work and the amount of attention to details that the filmmakers have put in. And I think it's lovely to be part of this complicity for a bit as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So top range film, 10 out of 10, 5-star, whatever you want to call it.
Excellent. Well, this is probably the first time that I've gotten so excited about a film that's perhaps not as well known as some of the selections we've done in the past, but this is well deserved.
And it's only 10 years old as opposed to 35 years as well.
Absolutely. This was episode 33 of Two Geeks and a Marketing Podcast. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please leave your comments, suggestions, and reflections for future episodes in the usual places. I was Pascal Fintoni and he was Roger Edwards. Until the next one, please go out there and make sure your marketing is done right.